right, so welcome back. Okay, so we're gonna move on to the filling for these cookies. So rugelach is a dough that's been kind of rolled out, and then basically it's got nuts and raisins in it. All right, and we're gonna work on that filling now. So what I have here is my French press. Okay, for coffee, typically for coffee. But what I do, I don't like the raisins very dry when I use them in these cookies, because once you bake it, the raisins get really dry. You chew on them, they get stuck in your teeth. They're not fun. So what I did here was I took Earl Grey tea that has a little lavender and bergamot in it, and I steeped my raisins in that. I reconstituted the raisins. So now I can go ahead and I can push down. Okay, this is why I do it in the French press. I push down the raisins, and now I can just pour out the tea. Okay. Pull that out. Okay. Get out the I can get out the tea bags. All right. So that's going to add a really unique flavor to my raisins that I wouldn't have otherwise. Okay. So from here, I'm going to take these raisins and I'm actually going to lay them out onto a paper towel. All right. Some paper towels, and I'll roll them up. So I want to kind of dry them off a little bit, but I don't want them to be like sun dried like a raisin. But I don't want them to be wet because I don't want them to make my sugar all soggy. But I do this a lot when I use raisins in salads or baked goods. I usually reconstitute them. Okay, because you get a lot more flavor out of them. And I'll do them in teas, different kinds of teas, depending on what I'm doing. Now, do you need to use Earl Grey? No, you could do green tea if you wanted. You could do, tea with orange in it, like dragon tea, oolong tea. You could do, but I like the flavor of the Earl Grey on the raisins, and it's kind of mild. All right, so now I'm going to let those dry. While I let those dry off a little bit, I'm going to come here. What I have here is I have a 1/4 cup of brown sugar that's been packed. Okay, again, remember, when you're measuring flour, very light and fluffy. When you're measuring brown sugar, always pack it down. Okay, so I got a 1/4 cup of brown sugar, and I got 6 tablespoons of granulated sugar. Okay, 6 tablespoons is also equivalent to a 1/4 cup plus 2 tablespoons, because there's 6 tablespoons in a 1/4 cup. Right? I mean, there's 4 tablespoons in a 1/4 cup. So that's important to know. So what I'm going to do is I'm just simply going to take a fork here, guys. Okay. I'm simply going to take a fork, and I'm just going to kind of mix this together with a 1/4 teaspoon of ground cinnamon. Okay. Cinnamon's very strong. Goes a long way. All right. So I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to fork this up. I like the fork because it's going to kind of it's going to break up that brown sugar a little bit, and then I might switch to a whisk. Okay. Or just my hands to work out those clumps. So I am getting a little clumps, probably because my brown sugar, I don't go through brown sugar as quick as we do in the shop. Especially recently, I've been off the carbs, but tis the season, right? Just get in there with my hands. Just start to break up those lumps, those little lumps. Okay, you don't want to get sticky, wear a pair of gloves. But again, it's okay to use no gloves here right now because we're cooking these cookies, right? We're baking them, so it's not ready to eat food. And besides that, this is my house. I'm going to be the one eating most of these cookies. Let's be honest. That's why I look the way I do, right? All right. So there we go. Now we mix that in. Okay, we might need a bigger bowl, actually, because I'm going to go with, I believe, 3/4 of a cup of chopped nuts. Okay. All right. So typically you use walnuts for this. Okay. But I have pecans. All right. At my house that I'm not using anyway, so I'm just going to use those. So I got some chopped pecans, okay, that I have, and we're going to do actually a full cup of chopped pecans, okay. Yeah, we're going to need a bigger bowl, and that's okay. I have plenty of bowls. Okay. Now we got the chopped nuts. Okay. And we got the raisins. Okay. The recipe says finely chopped on the nuts. I could always take this and put this into, you know what? Let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to take this, I'm going to throw it into my blender real quick. You know that trusty Vitamix we used yesterday? I'm actually going to grind this all together. Okay, so let me grab my lid. I could have chopped the nuts in a food processor first. All right, but I didn't. So let's go ahead. It doesn't take much, guys. I did it on very low speed. Okay. Could have probably went a little bit more than that, but whatever. I don't care. So if you see here, my raisins are still a little wet. I'm going to go one more round on the paper towel. So any of that moisture is going to make that sugar start to dissolve, right? And we don't want that. Really squeeze them. What are raisins made from? Again, you know, going back to talking about what we were talking about yesterday, we were talking about dogs and what they can have and can't have as far as food goes. Raisins are made from grapes, guys. So don't let your doggies get the raisins. Okay. I made that mistake. Okay. So now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to sprinkle my raisins in there. Okay. Quick. Boom. All right. So now I got my mixture. Okay. Got my raisins. Got my nuts. Pretty good. Potentially you could chop your raisins up first and then do them then reconstitute them. Or you could do them the night before and then reconstitute. You could reconstitute them the night before and then let them drain, like air dry in the refrigerator overnight. And when you do that, you can basically just go ahead and chop them up from there before you mix them into any of this, so they're a little smaller. I'd also recommend using what we call currants, which are Similar to a raisin in flavor. Okay. But they're a lot smaller. So that wouldn't be a bad move either. Just want to get that out. Be careful on that blade in there. That blade in that blender is really sharp. Okay, so now we have our mixture made. All right. Our mixture is made. We got apricot jam. All right. Well, an apricot preserve I have, which I'll use inside the dough when we roll the dough. Okay. So we're pretty much ready for the dough.